discussion of the Step 4 speaking exam. We'll follow the same outline that we've done with the other exams, with talking about the scope, the sample tasks, and some tips about the grading. So let's get into it. The scope of the exam here might seem a bit misleading, and that's because our Step 4 and Step 5 levels are both for A2. So let me highlight some of the things that the student must know at Step 4. So there's definitely past continuous. That's on Step 4. Not asking questions, but answering. Present perfect is not. That's on Step 5. Future tenses are at Step 4. Answering questions and making questions, that will be on the information exchange. And of course, may and might are mostly Step 5. They could come up in Step 4, but most likely they are used to describe the scene and the story at Step 5. If we talk about some of the other scope parts of Step 4, there's really nothing new here, except this is in Step 5, so there's no reason to worry about it at this point. But conjunctions, so, and, because, however, that's very standard. Adverbs, quickly, slowly, carefully, that's used in the story part. Tag questions are, they could be on the exam, but I actually have never seen an exam where this comes up. It's great that the students can use it, but there's no evaluation of it on the actual exam. That's just a fact. Let's take a look at the parts. It's usual in the beginning. Part 1 has 2 A and B sections. Greeting, of course, is correct. Spelling of the surname. Though, if there's limited time on the exam, that might be skipped. And there's simple topic. And this is where different verb tenses can come into play. Dependent clauses. Future plans, past tenses, last holiday. So it can be a discussion of essentially anything. And in general, there will be 4 or 5 questions here in February and November exams. On the April or May exam, really there should be 2 topics for discussion, and it's sort of expanded. Part 2 is similar to some lower levels where they have to talk about the differences. Part 3, storytelling, just like in the previous one, and the last part is information exchange, which is new to this level. So let's take a look at some sample tasks. This is pretty standard, like I said, something about spelling that may be skipped if we're pressed for time. And now you see there are 2 topics here, one about school and one about professions. And there's something about the future, so usage of future tenses, and something of the past tense. So this is really the part where the knowledge of the verb tenses is in general evaluated. Although they come up elsewhere, they're not the primary place for it. If we look at the next one, 2 pictures. The examiner gives the first example, always. And then the students have to give 3 differences independently. As always, if the student cannot do 3 independently, they might be asked to do a further one. Also, if there are a lot of students in the group and there's not enough time for the exam, perhaps 2 are acceptable. But again, the differences should be rather complex. So, for example, in Step 3, it might be okay to say in the first picture there are 2 bottles, in the second picture there are 2 bottles behind the mound. In Step 4, really we're looking for something more. So it could be that in the first picture the 2 green glass bottles are in front of the mound. So something like this. It should be something more complex than something from A1. Comparatives, of course, are in A1. Also, if we talk about the computer, let's try to have a more descriptive than in picture 1, the computer is on the bed, in picture 2, the computer is under the bed. It could be that the gray and red laptop is open and is on the bed. So something a bit more complex to demonstrate knowledge. Now, if we move on to talking about the story, again, usually the examiner starts the story and the students continue. And what's really important at this level is because it is A2, right? So it has already moved on from A1. The gap is quite big. Students should be able to describe not just the action in the picture. It should be something about the clothing, the feeling. Because something happened, something else was the result. Two actions that happened at the same time. So while Charlie and Jack were running, the weather was windy. Perfectly fine. So it's important that the students don't rush through it. A lot of students lose a lot of points on this particular task because they give one sentence per picture. The children are playing. Where is the ticket? They find the ticket. This is not a demonstration of A2. This is a demonstration of A1 or pre-A1. Okay? So make sure that this is not rushed and fully developed. And if we look at the last part, this is new. There was none of this in lower levels. The students are given a card, and first I ask them questions based on the card, and they should answer incomplete sentences. So it could be, is Peter's bedroom upstairs or downstairs? And the answer should be, Peter's bedroom is downstairs. If the answer is only downstairs, that gets less than half points. Also, they should note that I'm not always going to go in order. So I could go upstairs or downstairs, something about favorite thing. And so it's not a reading exercise. It's understanding and answering correctly. Also, I would like to mention here that the questions and the answers could be in a range of verb tenses. And answering in the incorrect verb tense makes them lose half the points. For example, if it's something about holiday, where was Helen's holiday? And if the student says she goes to, that's already half the points lost because that was misunderstood. So first I ask the questions, and then the students have to ask questions. Now, they don't have to repeat exactly the same format as my questions. It could be any other way. The point is to have a contextual question. So here the question could be, what is Paul's bedroom next to? What room is next to Paul's bedroom? It could even be yes or no. Is the kitchen next to Paul's bedroom? So it's perfectly fine to open up to a range of questions. And it could be just present simple. It could be future simple, continuous, and so on. When we get to the grading, it's essentially evaluated the same as some of the others. And what's important is everything should be level specific. So using A1 language here is acceptable in some cases, but it definitely leads to a loss of points. A lot of students fail because of this. And if we talk about why some students lose points or don't get the score they think they got, timeout is very common, especially in the story. They get stuck, don't ask for help, and then they lose the rest of the points. Some students in the picture task, in the story task, I'm sorry, will skip around. We'll go from picture 2 to number 4. Of course, that's a loss of points as well. Repeating the examiner's example, remember for the difference and the story, the examiner usually starts it. Wrong verb tense. And last but not least, not demonstrating a range of knowledge. So this can be in any of the tasks. No comparative, no verb tenses, no descriptions, continuous actions. If a student at step 4 is using step 3 knowledge to answer, that is of course a fail. The person hasn't mastered this level. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you found this useful, and good luck to your students. Thank you.